Hello all, welcome to part 23 of the Security Tube Metasploit Framework Expert. In this video, we will basically start understanding how to program your own scripts using Meterpreter. Now for this, the first thing to know is API basics on how we can go ahead and find things in the huge complicated code base of Metasploit to go ahead and use that with Meterpreter. This video is part of the Security Tube Metasploit Framework Expert course and certification. If you would like to enroll and certify, please visit securitytube.net/smfe. Our certifications are currently being taken by students from over 30 plus countries around the world. And this video is provided on SecurityTube free of charge in line with our vision mission to provide free yet quality InfoSec education to one and all. Okay, so Meterpreter, right? We all have used it, we all love it, but Meterpreter is actually a platform rather than an isolated little utility which ships with Metasploit. And when I say platform, what I mean is that you can write your own scripts and have them run on this platform. To do this, of course, I know the programmer in you is already asking, hey, so where is the API which Meterpreter exposes to developers, right? If you remember, we had used Railgun a couple of videos back, and Railgun is an essential utility or an essential technique using which you can extend the functionality of the framework. So when you want to write Meterpreter scripts, you can use the APIs which ship with the framework, or you can use Railgun to call arbitrary functions from DLLs available on the victim system. In this video, and probably for the next two, I will concentrate on using the native APIs which ship with the framework. Okay, so now documentation. Unfortunately, documentation on the API is pretty sparse, and most of what you are going to learn is how to look at code and find things. Now, if you would like to explore the code base, the core code is in librex, and Meterpreter related stuff is mainly inside post Meterpreter. So let's go there. I've already exploited a Windows 7 system and I'm on it. This is what we are going to use for the video. Now let me go to the framework directory, pentest exploits, framework, librex, post Meterpreter, right? And then you see tons of Ruby files here, a lot of directories, most of which looks really intimidating. Now, if you would like to find different APIs and stuff like that, this directly is going to be your gold mine and the subdirectories within it. So let me give you a simple example. Now, we all remember that to use extensions, we go ahead and actually have to load up that extension. Now, how do you use it programmatically? So you can actually call, let me go to the right directory, client dot, if you open up one of these files, so this is basically the client core. So client.core. Going ahead and using it with use would allow you to use any extension and load it up. So let me go here. So if you notice, loads a Meterpreter extension on the remote instance and initializes client-side handlers, right? So for example, if you wanted to load up Sniffer, which is not there, you could simply use this and load it up. So let's go ahead and actually, so typically you would use the use command, right, to load stuff up. And as we can clearly see, at this point, a couple of things are not being loaded. So let's say, you want to load Sniffer. Programmatically, mind it, right? Use Sniffer would just load it through Meterpreter. So I'm going into IRB mode and I say client.core dot use, and within brackets, let's say sniffer is what I want to load, right? And response of true means that now sniffer has been loaded, right? Fantastic. Now, basically, if we kind of go back to the same file and scroll a little bit more down, how many of us have used migrate to a new process? Almost all of us. So if you would like to migrate to a new PID, you could basically go ahead and call migrate, and this would do the job. So let's say I exit IRB mode for a second. I do a quick PS. I do a get PID to figure out who I am, 520. Let's say I want to go inside iexplore.exe, which is 1156, right? Go into IRB again, client.core.migrate, and 1156 is the PID of iexplore, right? So let's see what happens. This takes a bit typically. And it responds with true. Let me exit this. Let's do a get PID, and there you go. Our PID is changed. The key difference is we are now doing it programmatically, and that is what gives us a ton of power, right? Because now you can actually write your own scripts which do a variety of these tasks. Now in this video, what I'm going to do is help you find the different APIs in this whole jungle of Ruby scripts, and figure out how to go about unearthing all of these interesting APIs. So we looked at migrate. Now STD API is probably one of the extensions we use extremely when we are in MetaPredator mode, right? STD API itself has a ton of sub-utils, if I may, or sub-extensions, which is FS for file system, sys for various system level stuff, net for the configuration, the routing, things like that, the interfaces, and Railgun, which we've already visited in very detail, webcam, UI, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you want to go ahead and investigate further, go into the extensions directory. Inside that, you would see directories for most of the common extensions, which you have probably used. I'm going to STD API, and I'm going to open up stdapi.rb. And if I scroll down, if you notice, this basically gives me file system, which again is dir file and file stat, and then you have sys, which has config, process, registry, etc. So basically process allows us to do manipulation of processes, which is what we are going to see in the next two videos. Event log allows us to play with the event log, power with the power on the remote system, like shutting it down, rebooting it, etc. Let's go inside FS and have a look at what's there. And let's open up dir.rb to look at what APIs are available to us. So, for example, one of the interesting things you always want to find out is your present directory, right? dir.pwd returns the current working directory. Okay, fantastic. So here's what I'm going to do. Fall into IRB mode again, client, and basically what I'm going to be using here is FS for the file system. Then I was in dir, and then what I'm using is pwd. So here goes, right? And it basically gives me the present working directory, which typically you would have found by using the pwd command from within MetaPredator. Now let's say I want to list all the files in the current directory. Let me go back, check if there is any interesting stuff here. Okay. Dir entries is what allows me to basically look at all the files in a given directory. Fair enough. So let's say client.fs.dir, and after that what we really have here is entries, right? And then we need to give a directory. So let's say I'm interested in C drive, And if you notice, it returns an array of the file names which you would see in C drive on the Windows 7 victim system, right? If you had been there, and basically what it is listing is this along with all the different hidden files and stuff like that, right? Fantastic. So here you can see all the hidden files as well, the config.sys and a bunch of other things which of course you're not able to see here, just some basic stuff. Now if you want to change your current directory, which is your present working directory, all you have to do programmatically is find a function with just that, which is chdir, changes the working directory of the remote process. So let's say I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say, hey, let me just go down to C drive, right? Or probably better, C drive, and then I want to go inside Windows. And there you go. So now if I do a pwd, I'm in C drive Windows, right? So this is how very simply using these APIs, I am able to manipulate, go around the file system and do a ton of interesting things. Now you should look at the different APIs and play with them. My recommendation is before you start writing Meterpreter scripts, run them from the IRB mode and ensure you understand the return values, whether they are arrays, hashes, whatnot, and only then start actually going ahead and writing Meterpreter scripts. So now let's look at the different APIs under sys. Now to do that, let's go back here and let's go one directory up to sys. And inside that, let's open up config.rb. So if you remember, whenever we used to hit sysinfo, we used to get a ton of results. Well, we can do it programmatically as well. So I'm going to do, let me clear the screen, client.sys, right, .config sysinfo. And you notice I actually get a hash of a couple of interesting things. So if I'm only interested in the remote OS, let me reference it by the key, and it says Windows 7. If I'm interested, let's say, in the computer name, this is what I do, and I get security tube PC. Fantastic, right? Now, you could go ahead and play with these APIs, and probably, for example, if one of your scripts requires the remote system to be Windows 7, well, you can now go ahead, take the OS, and go ahead and check if it works or not. Similarly, you could play along with different APIs which allow you to explore the remote network interfaces, routes, etc. You can do that by going into the net directory, and let's open up config inside that. And if you notice, we basically have a little call here which says get interfaces, which is going to return an array of network interfaces. So here goes, clear the screen, client.net.config, and I think we had get interfaces, right? And if you look at the output, let me just go ahead and print these two separately. This is the first interface, which if you're already looking at the output, you know it's the loopback interface. And this is the actual physical adapter interface, which seems to be a blah 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 Intel adapter, right? Along with the MAC address as well. Fantastic. Now, what you could do is by scrolling down, what you would eventually notice is you can even get the different routes configured on the remote machine. So I can just go here, change this, and say, hey, give me the list of routes. And there you go. So I can look at each of these routes separately because the output seems to be an array. There you go. And this gives me a ton of detail about what is configured in the routing table on the remote system. Now, there are tons of APIs which are available. And as I mentioned, not all of them are properly documented. So because of that, what you may need to do is you may need to go look at the source code, explore a couple of these interesting APIs, and then play along with them, right? So that is all there in this video. In the next video, what we will do is we will use these APIs and create the very first Meterpreter script, which is a clone of migrate. And in the video after that, we will go ahead and create a script which searches for a specific process name in the list of running processes on the victim system. I can assure you it will be a fantastic, enjoyable experience, right? So that's all for this video, which is part of the SecurityTube Metasploit Framework Expert course and certification. If you would like to enroll and certify, please visit securitytube.net/smfe. Thank you.